Welcome back everybody. So, the almighty Neo Geo AES. Something, like many things, I've got rid of and rebought over the years, but something I really thought, you know, the ship had sailed. Up until, whenever it was, a couple of years ago, I got myself another one. I never envisaged having another, to be honest, but here we are, we've got one, and hopefully it's never going anywhere. So I just thought I'd run through the AES collection as it stands, because to be honest, I can't see myself adding to it. I'm not saying I won't, but given the prices of them, I really find it hard to justify buying any of them, to be honest. I've just collected the ones that I've had, you know, previously over the years, purely from like a nostalgia point of view. There are probably 2, maybe 3, ideally I would like, but given the prices, I don't see it happening, but you never know. Anyway, first one I had to pick up when I got the console back was a multicart. You could argue this is all you need, really, if I'm honest. And you can get these for the AES and the MVS if you've got an MVS system. I can't play MVS carts, I can only play AES, you know. But you can get the same cart for both, I believe. And this has got like 160 games on it, which you would expect to be a full library. Unfortunately, there is a lot of sort of multiples, if you like. There are like too many King of Fighters games on here, far too many. I mean, I don't care how good King of Fighters is and how big a fan you are, you don't need like 30 versions of King of Fighters, do you? You know, that would have been much better putting the full library on and with just a handful of King of Fighters games, in my opinion. That's the only criticism I've got of this, because there's probably half a dozen games on here that I wish were, that aren't. That said, it's an absolute must buy. Get yourself a multicart if you've got any kind of Neo Geo system. That then brings me on to the actual games. Like I say, these are primarily stuff I've had in the past, which is why I've reacquired them now. You can spend absolutely crazy money on Neo Geo cartridges, and I mean, it is absolutely bonkers. There's no way, even if I was rich, which I'm certainly not, there's no way I could justify it. Even some of these are silly money, really, when realistically you can emulate Neo Geo on pretty much anything these days, and it seems to be done really well on most of the things I've tried. So you could argue there's no reason to own a Neo Geo at all. That's by the by. It's still the king of consoles, always will be. So anyway, first one we've got, excuse the glare, they're all in box protectors. I'm not getting them out. Art of Fighting. Now this, I've got to say, when it came out in the 90s, the graphics were mind-blowing. You know, the size of the sprites was just unbelievable. That, you know, that was big as the screen. It was truly jaw-dropping. I don't actually like the game very much, if I'm honest. Once you get over the graphics, it's by far from the best fighting game on the Neo, but I felt I needed it in the collection. And it is quite cheap, that one, as far as Neo Geo games go. Much can be said the same about Art of Fighting 2. Again, I'm not that crazy about this game, but it's probably the cheapest game you can buy on the system, so that's kind of the reason why I bought it. Plus, you know, it's a nice little set with the original. But I mean, it's more of the same, really. I think this one is better, possibly. But I don't play either of these, really. Aside from a quick blast now and again. They seem exceedingly hard, the two Art of Fighting games. But graphically, incredible, especially at the time. Now we've got an absolute classic. This was an absolute must purchase. Samurai Spirits, or Shodown if you like. Stunning, still a stunning game. Obviously I think there's 5 of these altogether, and they get increasingly more expensive on the AES. For me, I prefer the first one. That's my favourite. I don't know, there's something about the later ones, they're just not as good for me. But Samurai Spirits 1, phenomenal game. And then, in much the same vein, we've got Samurai Spirits 2. And the box art on this one, absolutely stunning. Haumaru. I can remember back in the day when I used to have when the Neo CD came out, and I had some point of sale stuff in the shop, had this amazing Haumaru poster. Used to have it at the back of the counter. Oh, it was huge. I mean, it must have been, I don't know, it was A0 or A1. It was massive. And it was literally this Samurai Spirits 2 image on a huge poster. Oh, it was mega. I wished I'd still got that. Sadly, that went on eBay donkey's years ago. Anyway, back to the case in point. Samurai Shodown 2. Great game, though I do prefer the first one. And then one of my favourites on the Neo Geo, personally, one I've probably got, well, equal most nostalgia for, and it's Fatal Fury. This is the sort of English language box, American box if you like. Dog tag. This is because I got this one because this is what I had back in the day. This was one of the when I first bought my AES in, I don't know, whenever it was, early 90s. I had 2 games for it, and this was one of them. So I've always got sort of great nostalgia and memories of Fatal Fury. I know the later games are better, but for some, you know, it's the nostalgia, you know, it's a powerful drug. It always makes me favour this one over all the others. But I know the later games are better, don't get me wrong, but for me, I love Fatal Fury. So obviously, I'm quite a fan of Fatal Fury, so I had to get Fatal Fury 2. Still, they're all the Fatal Fury games are great. So delighted to have that. And then of course we've got Special, which is obviously in between 2 and 3. Another cracking game. Had to get that. Thankfully, 2 and Special are relatively cheap on the AES. Then, unfortunately, I've not got Fatal Fury 3, so that's kind of a hole in the collection. But we have got Real Bout, which I think, yeah, this is the only one I've got in like the plastic shock box. All the other games are in like the older vinyl boxes. Like I say, this is a much better game, obviously, but I've just got that nostalgia for the original. But this is a much better game, as is like Real Bout Special, Mark of the Wolves, you know, and so on. But this is a cracker, to be honest. Real Bout. Delighted to have that. That's the last Fatal Fury game I've got. Like I say, I kind of like number 3 just for the sort of completionist of that set up to Real Bout. Obviously, I'm certainly not buying Real Bout Special or Mark of the Wolves because they are crazy money. Right, next up. Now this, I remember when this came out I first played it, I'd got rid of my AES by this point, and I'd got the CD machine, and this came out, I think from memory it was a launch game with a CD machine, and it's King of Fighters 94. And it blew me away at the time. I was so impressed with it. It was so different, with like the tag team dynamic. I just loved it when I got my Neo CD. Fantastic game. Obviously you've got the loading problems on the CD, but there's none of that on cartridge, obviously. And I know there's like thousands of these ever since. But again, it's much like Fatal Fury, this one for me. I know there are sort of better, later versions, but it's always this version. If I was going to play King of Fighters, it's always this one I play, because it's the nostalgia. So, absolutely delighted to have that in the collection. Fantastic game. This one, I didn't actually have this back in the day, but I had the previous one in the series, which was World Heroes 2. This is World Heroes Jet. I think Jet's a better game, which is why I ended up buying this one. Now, it's not a stellar series, World of Heroes. It's kind of a 7 out of 10 sort of series, I would say. But it's a decent fight series. Obviously got 1, 2, Jet and Perfect. This is the third one, Jet, obviously. Decent little one-on-one fighter. So I'm, again, delighted to have that. We've only got 2 left. It's a small collection. Like I say, there are 2 or 3 which ideally I would like, but they're just, I can't, none of them are particularly common, really. And when you see them these days, they're just crazy money. You know, I would like Cyberlip, but it's mad money, that is. It's crazy money. And the trouble is, I can remember buying it back in the day for like 50 quid second hand, and you can't get that out of your head, can you? You know, you can't think, I used to buy that for 50 quid. I can't pay 400 quid for it now. There's a mental block there. I kind of like Thrash Rally because I had that back in the day. Though it's on the multicart, so pointless really. Why spend hundreds of pounds on something you've already got on the multicart? That sort of philosophy hits me a lot when I think about the AES and looking at prices, when, you know, unless it's one that's not on the multicart, very hard to justify. Magician Lord is another one. I would love that back. I used to have it, and that is not actually on the multicart as far as I remember. So I think if I ever buy one, it will probably be Magician Lord. Cracking sort of action platformer if you're not aware of it. Great game. Always rumoured there was going to be a second one. I remember seeing it in the magazine articles, you know, where you used to get the mail order companies advertising what was upcoming. I can remember seeing Magician Lord 2 being listed loads of times, and obviously never came out. Anyway, back on the plot. We've got Windjammers, Flying Power Disc, as this one's called. Now this is a what do they call it? Not a reskin. Conversion. Yeah, conversion. Obviously it's an MVS card converted to AES. This is mad money. The original AES. So I was more than happy to get the conversion. One of my favourites, Windjammers, such a cool game. Obviously they've done a sequel on modern consoles, so you can sort of play it there if you want to. And I think they've released the original on PS4 as well, I seem to remember. But anyway, I was really delighted when I got this on AES. I've never had this before on cartridge. I only ever had this on CD. Cracking games. It's Pong really. in effect, but frisbees and sort of power shots, and it's kind of pong and tennis mixed. Such a cool game, Windjammers. Then that brings me to my last game, which is my favourite game on the AES. This, along with Fatal Fury, are the first 2 games I ever had for my system, and this primarily, though mad it might seem, is the reason I bought an AES back in the day, because I remember seeing this being played on Games Master, the bit where they did the celebrity challenge thing, and Pat Cash, the tennis player, was playing somebody at this, and I don't know, it blew, I wouldn't say it blew my mind, but it impressed me so much. I thought I really want to play that, and so it was the first game, along with Fatal Fury, I bought with my system back in the day. And I'm talking about Baseball Stars. Now, I know you might think crazy, it's a sports game. Yes, it is, but it's amazing. You can't beat an arcade sports game. You can chuck all the simulation style ones in the skip, as far as I'm concerned, but an arcade sports title, magnificent. And they don't come any better than this, in my opinion. This and Turf Masters on the Neo Geo, so good. So is Street Hoop as well, actually. Quite a few of them. Soccer Brawl, that's another cartridge I quite like, actually. Soccer Brawl, I used to have that, but again, it's on the multicart, so hard to justify. Psychic Soccer, Football Frenzy, League Bowling, they're all, actually, I forgot League Bowling, I've got that. Just a minute. But yeah, Baseball Stars, amazing. Obviously it's baseball. I much prefer this to the sequel. Got much more charm about it, this one, in my opinion, and I much prefer it to 2020 baseball, which, I mean, they're all essentially the same, but this one's got most charm about it to me. And I was desperate to get hold of this cardboard box version. Not actually the version I had back in the day, but I just love this this box. So honestly, if you haven't played Baseball Stars, just play it. It's fantastic. We'll just have a quick jump cut and I'll get the one that I forgot to mention. Right, we're back. Yes, I forgot to pick this one up. It was in a different place. League Bowling. Just like Baseball Stars, another absolutely stunning arcade sports title. Unfortunately, I've only got this one cart only, so I bought this sort of shock style box off AliExpress just to put the cart in. In an ideal world, I would love the Japanese cardboard sleeve version of League Bowling, because it's in a beautiful pink box. But all the ones I've seen lately have been absolutely battered or they're sun faded, so this will do for now. But it is the cardboard box matches this sticker on the cart, and these shock boxes aren't too bad actually from AliExpress. They're just bigger than the original boxes, which is really annoying, so they don't fit on the shelf. That's my only criticism, but aside from that, they are really good. And this one's not actually original artwork as far as I'm concerned, but it does the job. So there we go, the AES collection. It's a small but mighty collection, primarily about nostalgia for me. But let me know what you think anyway in the comments. What do you think about the Neo Geo? Have you ever owned one? Would you like one? Is it pointless these days? Let me know. Thanks for watching anyway, and see you soon, all being well.